with shame.
Kahlo should leave, and we should get our next caller in who wants to talk about stuff.
We haven't even had a first
3.2.
caller yet.
Yeah.
We've had a first caller, maybe not this episode, but we've had a first caller.
Oh my God.
Our next caller, thank you very much, is Sifa Pirin of Timeberry.
What's up, Sifa? How's it going?
Hey guys, going well, thank you.
Thanks for...
it's via Purian, by the way, close.
Yeah. Not anywhere close, but that's okay.
No.
Par for the
Alright,
course. Good job, Juxta.
Right, I'm wanting to talk. It's probably going to take a while, so feel free to interrupt me at any point. All
right, good caller. Thank you for calling in, and we'll see you later.
Shut up.
Okay, 3.2 from the perspective of a min-maxer, and what it's going to mean for us and what's coming up.
Okay.
All right.
So-
Well, because now before you get into it, though, something that should be mentioned is that I think min-maxing is going to change quite a bit, just because gear structure is going to be changing so much between
Precisely.
the crafted gear stat changes, the changes that they're going to be making to the materia system, and then on top of it, the additional changes that they're going to be making to possibly the output of diadem as well as raids. 3.2 looks like it's going to be a really big, massive upheaval in the way that people think of and try to collect gear. So, just thinking about that's really kind of like what we're looking at. So, I assume that you're speaking as a min-maxer. So, as a min-maxer, what are you looking at in terms of these shifts?
Right, the first thing is that what we know about the gear that's coming out, crafted, tome, and raid, can all be melded.
Right.
Tome and raid gear can have only the slave slots melded, and only secondary stats in those.
Right.
Crafted gear can have main stats in the safe slot and can be over melded.
Okay.
Right. So, regardless, if you are getting a full set of crafted gear from the start, you're going to need 55 or 60 rank 5 materia as soon as you step
Wow.
into 3.2.
And that's only for like your main gear. Imagine people who might want, like for example, as a tank, you'll probably want 2 sets of gear, one with vit on it, one with strength in it.
Yep, exactly. I think the
Yeah.
best one for tanks will be a combination of
Yeah,
gear
true.
melded with strength and strength gear melded with vit, just to get that balance.
Yeah.
But thinking about it that way, you've got an average maybe 20 spoils per run from Diadem, and it's 48 spoils for a rank 5 materia.
And you need 50 to 60 of them. Oh my god.
Assuming you never ever fail a meld, you're looking at
Jeez.
130 plus Diadem runs.
Oh,
You're saying what? Wait, are you saying one person gets 20 per run?
if you're
Because-
lucky.
Well,
hold on.
I walk out of there with like 3 pieces every time I go, so I
Yeah.
stop going.
Juxta, what's your average takeaway from spoils?
Probably like 15.
Hang on. Hang on.
No, there have been times you've walked away with like 50.
When was the last time you did diadem?
It's been a while.
Way back when.
Weeks ago?
Because
Yes.
If I would have gotten more than 3 per run, I might have done it more, but fuck that.
No, you get way more than 3.
No, I walk out of there with 3 pieces every single time I do it, so I stopped.
Well, maybe if you were a little bit prettier, then people would take pity on you and tip you a little bit more.
Okay. That's how this game works, huh?
See, I would be really curious to know from either the chat room or the callers, like what does the diadem even look like right now? Like I've thought about, like, I kind of want to go do that and
There's
take
still
a break.
people doing it.
Well, there have to be people
Yeah.
doing it because we talked last time about gatherers and making a separate system for them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the materials that you need to be able to craft the items for the final
relic.
stage of the relic come out of diadem and only diadem. So there've got to be people going in there. It's just I'm curious what that overall population.
What, Nick? Actually, speaking to the fact, because I'm sure you're not the only one who's had bad luck and gone in there and just came out with like 3 spoils, right? What do you guys think to Square-Enix adding like a bare minimum, like for example, if you queue through Duty Finder or something like that, like just for completing it, you get like 10 spoils. Do you think that should be a thing that they should add?
I mean,
Good.
it sounds good in theory simply because it's so dead, but can you imagine when materia becomes a thing that's going to crash the market?
No, not necessarily, because again, it takes 48 just to be able to get 1, and if you go in there and at the end of it, as long as you complete the duty, you don't leave or whatever, at the end when that little window pops up that tells you how long you were in there, how many things you killed,
Right.
chests you got, it also gave you at the end just like boom, here's 10 spoils. Or maybe even giving you spoils based on how many NMs you've killed. I don't know.
I think if you just have it be like a flat 10, that's going to turn into people figuring out what the minimum amount of work they can do to get the 10 spoils is.
Well, obviously, you're still going to want to do work when you're in there because you're still getting drops that you can then turn in for spoils. But it's sort of like it's like a booby prize.
Anyway, I think
keep in mind you're also going to be able to like spirit bind in diadem after 3.2, if I'm not mistaken.
Can you
can't
not already?
yeah, I thought you can right now. Doesn't it? Don't you?
But you can.
Yeah, it's
can you?
there's an increased spirit bond rate in diadem already.
Oh wow, I didn't know it was
It
increased.
is
Yeah.
very fast.
Yeah.
It took maybe 2-3 diadem runs to make that all 210 gear.
Wow. That's not bad, but what do you think? Getting off of the diadem population, because that was just kind of a random aside. But so min maxing. Let's get back onto that.
Yes. All right. So where I was going from there is that for hardcore progression, you're going to need all these materia on you before you step into raid, because whatever drop you get, you will then need these materia to meld and immediately move on. We know that the raids are going to be relatively easily, so you will be replacing this gear within weeks.
How many pieces of gear are we talking about replacing like each week though? On like a high note, like if you're doing really really well, because you're only getting it's 2 drops per boss, right? And you're only doing these bosses once per week, so within your
You also
raid
get the
group,
token, so then
the tokens as
after
well.
so many runs, you can get one too.
True.
4 weeks you're replacing a piece, regardless.
Okay, so
even
at
if it's an
least
accessory.
At least 1 piece in per week. Then would you say?
It's 4 for the accessory, and then 6 right now for T2 or A2.
That aside, for those pieces that you're then obtaining from chests or from tomes, you then have to meld those as well. So that's another 22 or 24 materia if you can meld the weapon.
That's a lot of materia.
Oh, weapon
It is.
melding.
And they're going to have to be rank 5 because the stat cap's going to be so high that it has to be the plus 15s.
Yeah, or else you're just wasting the slot. Like if it's
exactly.
not a rank 5, it's a waste. So
Absolutely.
yeah, knowing that, materia is, we are like poised on a huge materia surge.
Do you think that with this big change, because obviously materia is going to be playing a fucking huge role now, do you think that they might think about easing some of the materia shattering percentages?
I hope so. I hope that they put in a diminishing return on your chance to fail.
Yeah.
Right.
So that as you fail more, the chance goes up to succeed. Would be the best
That would
way
be
for it to
nice,
work.
but I just feel like with how much I feel like people are going to capitalize on this market opportunity, and so for a while the market's going to be flooded with materia. So, and then I think the price will go down. So I think the chance of failing will be less, bad.
Won't have as
I
much
think
weight to it.
Everyone is going to want it. I mean, people who don't raid hardcore, in their 6 nights a week, are still going to want to meld their tome gear.
That is true. That is very true. And but I don't think that goes so far as to get into the territory of gear lust like we've been talking about. And I don't think that it's going to make people want to invest more long term. That's part of the problem, is that everyone knows that they're going to be investing in this gear for a patch, and then it's going to go away, and then it's also hoovered a lot of your gil away too, because you can't, once you've melded that,
You don't get that back.
Yeah, you don't get that back. You can never recoup your expenses on that. It's just lost gil. So unless this is designed to be a gil vacuum, and I get it that gil doesn't have a whole lot of value, but I mean, look at the way that people are struggling with the crafted anima items right now. You know what I mean? Like, people are struggling to be able to make enough gil to be able to buy that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're still 400k each.
Yeah,
and you need 4 of them.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think I really do hope that Square Enix puts a lot of time and thought into what they want this to do to the markets, because if all of these different proposed changes happen in one patch, if it all happens in 3.2, if we get this massive shift in the way that gear works and performs, then all of those things happening at once, I think, is going to throw the whole game into chaos.
It very well could.
And that's, I don't know. That's not necessarily I think if they did it in a slower rollout, that would probably be a little bit smarter. But it's really interesting. Yeah, you're gonna have to think about materia a whole lot more, because there are some people who just don't think about materia at all. There are players who have never even thought about overmelding, pentameld, none of that. They don't. It doesn't mean anything to them. But do you think that even with, because we're going to be able to meld the ESO gear, and that that there's restrictions on stuff like that, what do you think is going to be the payoff? What's going to be the benefit to going with ESO gear as opposed to trying to just go either straight to crafted or raid gear? Do you think they're trying to devalue ESO gear even a little bit more?
I think ESO is going to be the easiest one to get, because if you're one of those people that
it already is.
Well, yeah, but for example, they're like, all right, now you can get crafted gear too. Well, all right, technically, if you want to get it as fast as you can and you have any means necessary, yeah, buy all the crafted gear, boom, you're set.
Right.
But if you're one of those people that don't have the money to do that, you're still just stuck with ESO gear.
Mm-hmm.
So
I also think that
I don't know.
this is another one of their attempts at giving horizontal progression in gear, with the crafted and the melding all at the same time, to give us what is, it seems like more options, but technically isn't. It's just a more expensive option.
Right. And it isn't really an option, because the option that I think we've been asking for as players is to have something that is relevant longer, and this doesn't accomplish any of that, because it all becomes irrelevant straight at 3.2. Like, the thing is I want a set of gear that is super challenging to get, or that is super grind heavy to get, that will be relevant not just to the start of 3.2 but all the way to the end of 3.2 and into 3.3. That would be gear that I could see myself investing the time and effort to get. But if it just gets thrown out in a patch, or in a patch and a half, whatever, then it's not as much or enough of an investment for me to make that jump.
No. And just to carry this on to the last point I wanted to make, people don't realize that progression rating and hardcore rating is very, very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And now with an added cost of materia and gear just being thrown out effectively, it's going to be much higher. I worked out that during our A3 progression, enrage wipes were costing our raid 1.1 million gil each time. So every 12 minutes,
as a whole?
we threw away, as a whole, 24 drac pots in food time.
Jeez.
And if you're in there for 6 hours, you're throwing away a lot of gil.
Well, yeah, because keep in mind how important consumable items are to rating, where they don't play as big of a role in the wider world. Yeah, no, I can see that would get expensive after a while. And
then, to make the matters even worse, people don't want raiders to sell carries. It's bad for everyone. Everyone knows that. Raiders know that. The people buying it know that. It doesn't encourage any development or skill within the community.
Sure.
But really, when you're dedicating that much time to the learning, and now it's probably going to have to be diadem as well instead of whatever else it was that people were doing to try and get gil.
Right, yeah.
And then they've neutered the carry business by making the relics need so much poetics that coils are no longer sellable.
Mm-hmm.
Even Alex Savage has been given away for free on my server at the moment.
Oh, wow.
A1 and 2.
I never thought about that. At this point, the only thing that's sellable is maybe Thornton Extreme?
Yeah.
I've seen people
And
selling
T7
Thornton for
Savage.
you keep all weapons and yada yada.
Yeah.
That's
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is ridiculous, because if you think about other games at the end game, their rating community always had something to that they had a way to be able to make money, whether it was selling drops, whether it was selling pop items. I mean, you had the rating community had not just a gil vacuum, but it had something that pumped gil back into it as well. You don't see that here. There is, outside of selling clears, there's really no way for you to take any of the spoils that you get from any of these events and turn around and make a profit off of them.
Housing.
All right. Well,
On that note,
yeah. Well, thanks so much for the call. If you'd like to call Limit Break Radio, send a Skype message on over to Limit Break Radio or 810-515-8715. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your perspectives on all of this. There's again, like we said, a lot of tectonic shifts that are going to be happening in Final Fantasy 14 in the next couple of patches. I had
a question for you, Nero, based on something that you said during that call there. So obviously you're still a big proponent for putting some type of really fucking awesome high item level thing that's not going to be current until the end of the expansion.
Right.
In raids, it's
Yes.
really, really hard. You also mentioned though during that call to put in even a way to have it like super grindy. So do you think that as well as putting it in the raids, who hopefully incentivize people to hopefully get back into raids and give that gear lust.
Yeah.
What do you also think of there being an option that's just like an incredibly huge time sink, but that you could theoretically do all on your own? When I say incredibly huge, I'm talking like bigger than the current relic was. Is that something that you would be okay with, or do you think that would take away from the incentive to possibly raid?
I don't know. It's tough.
I think it takes away from it.
I think
sure.
I definitely think it does. But I think if they did it in a way like they did with Abyssia, like how you had the different pieces, parts that you were collecting to be able to upgrade your gear to +1, +2, whatever. I thought that was a good system. And if they could find a way to do it with something like Diadem, I could see where a progression system like that for gear would have a place and would be totally viable. Right now, though, I think that they just need that fast forward button. I think they just need that. They don't need to throw that much development at it, because that is a lot of development to figure out what you have to grind, et cetera, and then you got to come up with all of the other stuff to it, like
I think I'm still on board with your idea. Put that 1 or 2 pieces per patch in there that leads up to the end of the expansion.
Yes,
and honestly, if you just make it so that they're sellable, obviously very few FCs would probably sell it,
right?
But that would give them that way to make income.
You know what? Here, make the difference between the two gear sets, right? So ostensibly, you would be taking your gear set that would be dropping out of, like, say, the final turn of Alexander Savage, right?
Yep.
And you'd be taking that gear set and you would be in RNG distributing it in very low quantities in the first 2 turns. So the difference between those 2 sets of gear, between what you got in the low percentage RNG and the as a reward for actually doing it, would be the stuff that came early is sellable, and the stuff that comes out of the actual last turn of Alex Savage is not.
And what that also does too is gives people who don't raid that grind heavy option.
Yes.
If you grind out enough gil,
yes,
you could ostensibly
Right. Exactly. And I think that that's fair. And it was those kinds of considerations that were given to 11 that I don't think have ever been given to 14. 11 was brilliant about the way that it structured pop items, that it structured events. There was an input and an output. It was much more balanced. And I feel like the Diadem was like, Square Enix is like, okay, let's try to move towards that, but let's see what they do with a blank slate. So I think, to me, one of the most encouraging statements out of that whole thing that we read last week was that they're going back and looking at readjusting the Diadem and adding more rules, adding more objective-based stuff to do in there. I think that's smart, and that could lead to something a much more interesting down the road. But
I agree.
I just feel like it's really hard to get a system in place like that when you don't have an agreed upon set level cap or eye level cap. Like, obviously you have the level cap at 60, but they've circumvented that by just allowing the eye level to increase with every patch until they reach a point where they say, this is what the eye level is going to be for a long time.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have a hard time seeing anything like that.
I don't know. See, because I think that they could continue to do the slowly increasing eye level if you gave a fast forward button. if you get and just made sure it was an extremely low output, put it behind, wallet behind a crazy challenge and give it a super low RNG, I don't think anyone would be upset by that. I don't think the WeWants would cry foul because you're putting in the work to be able to get it, and I don't think that the Raiders would cry foul because not everyone is being being handed it, just
and
because.
The reason I think it works is because if it's low enough, because this happened all the time in FF11, and yeah, there were a lot of people that said, "Oh, I want that,
right.
but it wasn't like we deserve that, give that to us.
Right.
It was just sitting at the auction house going, just pawing at the window at your
Right.
monitor and being like,
Right, but I mean, like,
But it was such a different mindset in 11.
was.
Everyone had a different viewpoint of everything. That's what you expected.
yeah.
Well, and not just that, but it could. I mean, honestly, it would lead to a lot of griefing. There would be a lot of people. It would drop on a rando run, and somebody would, somebody would take it, and whoever took it, people would be pissed inevitably. But you know what? That's all just part of playing an MMO and playing with other people and having to deal with other people. And we should not find ways in this game to minimize our interactions with other people. I think that's the part of the game that really bothers me, is when Square Enix goes out of their way to go, oh, well, this could be a problem, so let's circumvent that by creating, by making sure Gil has no value. That's what they did to try to combat RMT. And so now what are they trying to do? They're trying to go back and they're trying to make it have value again, because, I mean, yes, do RMT exist? They're always going to exist, but they're not a plague like they used to be on FF11. And so now, and now they've realized that their currency has no value, and such they have to introduce new points into the game every time you want to introduce something of value, and that kind of sucks. So
Speaking of people who